Captain Jake Morrison stood alone on the bridge of the Liberty's Dawn. The lights were dim, and the hum of the engines filled the silence. Outside the windows, stars stretched endlessly in all directions. He had been staring at the same star chart for an hour now, but his mind was somewhere else. It was 15 years ago, back when everything changed for humanity. The door slid open behind him. Commander Lisa Hayes walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Jake and stood beside him, following his gaze to the stars. "You're thinking about it again," she said quietly. Jake nodded. He didn't need to explain. Lisa had been there too. They all remembered first contact with the Zalthari Empire. 15 years ago, humanity had just begun exploring beyond their own solar system. They had built colony ships and settled on 3 worlds. Mars was thriving. Europa had underwater cities. The Belt colonies were mining asteroids. Humanity thought they were ready to meet other intelligent life. Then the Zalthari found them. Jake remembered watching the broadcasts. The Zalthari ships had appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. They were massive, beautiful vessels that looked more like works of art than war machines. Their hulls were silver and curved, decorated with patterns that seemed to shift in the light. A delegation came down to meet with Earth's leaders. High Curator Velmoth led them. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes were large and dark, and when he spoke, his voice had a musical quality that translation devices struggled to capture. But there was nothing musical about his message. "You are primitives," Velmoth had told the assembled leaders of Earth. "Your species evolved on a Class 12 death world. You are violent, short-lived, and barely civilized. The Galactic Council has reviewed your case. You are not ready to join the civilized species of the galaxy." The human ambassadors had tried to argue. They showed the Zalthari Earth's art, music, and literature. They explained human philosophy and achievements. They talked about the colonies and the peaceful expansion into space. Velmoth laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "You fight wars over resources," he said. "You damage your own planet. You have thousands of different languages and cultures that cannot agree on anything. You are divided, aggressive, and dangerous. The galaxy does not need another warrior species." Then came the restrictions. The Zalthari Empire claimed all star systems within 50 light-years of Earth. Human ships were forbidden from traveling beyond those boundaries. Any human colony outside the zone would be dismantled. The 3 colonies humanity had already established outside the zone would be blockaded until they surrendered. Earth's governments protested. They sent diplomatic missions. They pleaded with the Galactic Council. Other species listened politely and did nothing. The Zalthari were one of the oldest and most powerful empires in the galaxy. Nobody wanted to anger them over a species of Deathworld apes. When the colonies refused to surrender, the Zalthari showed humanity what happened to those who disobeyed. Jake closed his eyes, but the memory came anyway. The mining station at Kepler 442 had been home to 3,000 people. They were miners, engineers, and their families. They grew food in hydroponic gardens and celebrated birthdays in the mess hall. Jake's sister had lived there with her husband and 2 children. The Zalthari fleet arrived without warning. They didn't send a message or give the station time to evacuate. They simply opened fire. The station's shields lasted 40 seconds. The hull lasted another 20. Then there was nothing but debris and bodies floating in space. The Zalthari broadcast the attack on every human channel. High Curator Velmoth appeared on screen, standing calmly in front of a display, showing the destroyed station. "This is what happens when primitives forget their place," he said. "You will pay tribute to the Zalthari Empire. You will stay within your borders. You will obey the rules of civilized space. If you do not, more of your people will die." Earth had no choice. The fleet was too small and scattered. The Zalthari could destroy Earth itself if they wanted. Humanity paid the tribute. They accepted the borders. They watched as the Zalthari claimed star systems that human scouts had surveyed first. For 15 years, humanity bowed their heads and obeyed. But Jake knew something the Zalthari didn't understand. Humans were good at learning from mistakes. They were even better at holding grudges. "Earth's been busy," Lisa said, breaking the silence. "The new fleet is ready." Jake turned to look at her. "How many ships?" 42 battle carriers, 130 destroyers, 300 support vessels, all designed for one purpose. "War," Jake finished. Lisa nodded. "Real war. Not the policing actions the Zalthari do. Not the ceremonial battles the other species practice. Earth built a fleet for total war." Jake thought about that. For 15 years, humanity had studied every battle report they could find. They learned how galactic warfare worked. Most species fought like they were playing a game. They had rules. They avoided civilian casualties. They accepted surrender quickly. War was expensive and messy. So they tried to win with the smallest effort possible. Humans didn't think like that. Earth's history was full of total wars, world wars. Wars where entire nations threw everything they had at each other. Wars where losing meant extinction. Humanity knew how to fight when survival was on the line. The new fleet reflected that knowledge. The ships were ugly compared to Zalthari vessels. They were thick slabs of armor, with weapons bolted to every surface. They carried fighters that could be produced quickly and cheaply. They had reactors that ran hot and dangerous, but produced massive power. Every system was designed to be repaired in combat. Every weapon was built for maximum damage. "Bridge. This is communications." A voice came over the speaker. "We're receiving a priority transmission. It's marked Emergency Level 1. Source is Zalthari space." Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. Emergency Level 1 meant something catastrophic. The Zalthari never sent emergency signals. They were too proud. "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered to life. For a moment, Jake didn't recognize the figure on the screen. Then he realized it was High Curator Velmoth. But he looked nothing like the proud, mocking alien from 15 years ago. Velmoth's silver robes were torn and stained with something dark. One of his forearms hung uselessly at his side. Behind him, lights flashed red, and alarms screamed. Smoke filled the air. Somewhere in the background, something exploded. "This is High Curator Velmoth of the Zalthari Empire," he said. His voice shook. "We are requesting immediate military assistance from all spacefaring species. Our empire is under attack. Billions are dead. Our fleets are broken. We need help. We are willing to negotiate terms." He paused. And Jake saw something in those large, dark eyes that he had never seen before. Fear, desperation, and something else. Humiliation. "We are asking for help from humanity," Velmoth said slowly, as if each word hurt. "Please. We need you." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Lisa spoke first. "They're begging us. The species that killed your sister is begging us for help." Jake stared at the empty screen. He thought about his sister. Admiral Ryan Carter stood in the command center on Earth, watching the Zalthari transmission for the 5th time. Around him, officers and government officials argued in heated voices. Everyone had an opinion about what humanity should do. "We have to help them," Kate Palmer said firmly. She was the senior diplomatic officer, and she had been arguing for mercy since the transmission arrived. "This is our chance to show the galaxy that humans are better than the Zalthari. We can be the bigger species." "They killed 3,000 of our people," Daniel Cross shot back. He was a commander in Earth's defense force, and one of the few survivors from the Kepler 442 disaster. He had been on a supply run when the station was destroyed. His wife and daughter had been inside. "They laughed at us. They treated us like animals. Now they want our help?" Kate turned to face him. "Yes, they were cruel. Yes, They were wrong. We're no better than they are. Billions of innocent Zalthari civilians will die. Children, families, people who had nothing to do with the massacre. My daughter was innocent too, Daniel said quietly. She was 6 years old. She liked to draw pictures of stars. The Zalthari didn't care about that when they fired on the station. President Helen Grant raised her hand for silence. The room quieted immediately. She was a tall woman, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a senator during First Contact and had witnessed the humiliation personally. "Let's see the full transmission again," she said. "All of it." The technician played the complete message. After Velmoth's initial call for help, there was more information. A younger Zalthari appeared on screen. She introduced herself as Sub-Curator Nethris, the defense coordinator for Zalthari Prime. Nethris explained the situation in detail. 3 months ago, a Zalthari research facility had been studying a species called the Krell. The Krell were bioengineered parasites, created millions of years ago by a long-dead civilization as weapons. The Zalthari had found dormant Krell eggs in an ancient ruin and brought them back for study. Something went wrong. The Krell woke up. They escaped containment and infected the research staff. Within days, they had spread across the entire research colony. Within weeks, they had built ships from the organic matter of their victims and spread to neighboring systems. The Krell didn't negotiate. They didn't take prisoners. They simply consumed everything in their path and used the biomass to create more of themselves. They were a plague, spreading from world to world like a disease. Nethris showed footage of the attacks. Jake had watched this part 3 times and still felt sick. The Krell ships were grotesque things, made from twisted bone and flesh. They crashed into Zalthari vessels and tore them apart. The parasites flooded through the breaches and infected the crews. Within hours, those crews became part of the swarm. 4 Zalthari worlds had fallen completely. 16 more were under attack. The Zalthari fleet, designed for policing primitive species and ceremonial displays, was useless against an enemy that felt no fear and accepted no surrender. The Krell will reach Zalthari Prime in approximately 4 standard days, Nethris said in the transmission. We have requested assistance from all member species of the Galactic Council. None have fleets close enough to help in time. Long-range analysis suggests the swarm will consume our entire empire within 6 months. After that, it will spread to neighboring territories. She paused, and her expression was pained. Humanity is the only species close enough to intervene. You have ships in nearby systems. Your fleet could reach us in time. We are offering full membership in the Galactic Council, unrestricted access to Zalthari technology, and territorial concessions. Please. We need help, immediately. The transmission ended again. President Grant looked around the room. Opinions? Kate spoke first. This is bigger than revenge. If the Krell consume the Zalthari Empire, they'll keep spreading. Eventually, they'll reach human space. We should help because it's the strategic thing to do, even if we don't forgive the Zalthari. I agree with the strategic assessment, Admiral Carter said slowly. But I disagree about forgiveness. The Zalthari spent 15 years treating us like inferiors. They killed our people to prove a point. Now they're desperate, and they expect us to come running like grateful servants. He pulled up a star chart showing the region of space between human and Zalthari territory. Our fleet is ready. We can reach Zalthari Prime before the Krell do. We can probably stop the swarm. Humanity has experience fighting parasites and invasive species. Earth's entire history is full of battles against diseases and pests. We know tactics the Zalthari never needed to learn. Then we should go, Kate said. We should, Carter agreed. But not for free. And not to save the Zalthari. Because they deserve it. President Grant leaned forward. Explain. The Zalthari think they're asking equals for help, Carter said. They're not. They're begging. They're desperate. They have no other options. This is the best leverage humanity will ever have over them. Daniel spoke up. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we make them pay, Carter said flatly. Not in money or technology. In acknowledgement. In justice. They killed 3,000 of our people and never apologized. They treated us like animals for 15 years. Before we commit one human life to saving their empire, they need to answer for what they did. President Grant was quiet for a long moment. Around the room, officers and officials waited. Jake Morrison, watching via video link from the Liberty's dawn, held his breath. What would you demand? Grant finally asked. Carter pulled up a document. He had clearly prepared for this question. First, a public acknowledgement of the Kepler 442 massacre, and a formal apology broadcast across all galactic channels. Second, reparations paid to every family that lost someone. Third, immediate removal of all restrictions on human expansion and travel. Fourth, surrender of High Curator Velmoth to human custody for trial. Fifth, full access to all Zalthari military technology and databases. Kate looked horrified. You want to put their leader on trial? That's incredibly aggressive. The galaxy will see us as vengeful. The galaxy watched us get massacred and did nothing, Daniel said harshly. I don't care what they think. The galaxy respects strength, Carter added. For 15 years, we showed weakness. We accepted the Zalthari's rules. We paid tribute. We stayed quiet. That's why nobody helped us. If we want respect, we need to take it. President Grant looked at each person in the room. Kate, I understand your position. You want humanity to be better. But Daniel is right. We can't let the massacre go unanswered, and Carter is right about leverage. We'll never have this opportunity again. She made her decision. Send a fleet to Zalthari space. But before they engage the Krell, the Zalthari will meet our demands. All of them. If they refuse, our ships turn around and come home. Kate started to protest, but Grant cut her off. I'm not doing this for revenge, Kate. I'm doing this because humanity needs to establish where we stand in the galaxy. The Zalthari treated us like inferiors because they thought they could, because we let them. That ends now. She turned to Admiral Carter. How long do the Zalthari have before the Krell arrive? 4 days, according to their estimates. Then they have 72 hours to meet our demands. After that, the offer expires. Carter smiled grimly. I'll inform the fleet. Jake Morrison is already prepared to move. The Retribution and her battle group can be in Zalthari space in 18 hours. President Grant nodded. Send them. And make sure the Zalthari understand. We're not coming to save them. We're coming to deliver judgment. Across human space, the fleet began to move. 42 battle carriers and their escort vessels activated their faster-than-light drives. The ships were ugly and brutal compared to the elegant Zalthari vessels. But they were built by a species that knew what real war meant. On the Retribution, Jake Morrison addressed his crew. We're going to Zalthari Prime, he told them. Not to save them. Not to be heroes. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you push humanity too far. The crew cheered. Many of them had lost family at Kepler 442. All of them remembered the years of humiliation. The Zalthari called us primitives, Jake continued. They called us violent animals from a death world. Today, they're going to learn that the violent animals are exactly who you call when the monsters come. And we don't work for free. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zalthari Prime system. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the tactical display update with new information. 6 battle carriers and 30 escort vessels arranged themselves in a defensive formation. It was a fraction of Earth's total fleet, but it was more than enough to make a statement. Scan the system, Jake ordered. I want to know everything. Lieutenant Chris Donovan worked at the tactical station. His fingers moved across the controls, pulling data from the ship's sensors. I'm reading heavy damage to the outer defense platforms. Multiple debris fields, Looks like the Zalthari had a fight here recently and lost. Life signs? Reading approximately 40 billion on Zalthari Prime itself. Another 10 billion scattered across the moons and orbital stations. The Zalthari defense fleet is in close orbit around the planet. I count 87 ships, but most show damage. Lisa Hayes studied the tactical display. They pulled everything back to defend their homeworld. Smart move, but it won't be enough if the Krell come with the numbers we saw in the reports. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's from Zalthari Defense Command. They're requesting immediate contact with the fleet commander. Put them through, Jake said. The main screen flickered to life. A Zalthari female appeared, her blue skin marked with stress lines. This was Sub-Curator Nethris, the defense coordinator from the original transmission. She looked exhausted but relieved. Commander Morrison, she said quickly. Thank you for responding so quickly. We detected your arrival and are transmitting all tactical data now. The Krell swarm is 70 hours away. We need to coordinate our defensive strategy immediately. If you move your ships into high orbit, we can integrate your vessels into our defensive grid and— Stop. Jake interrupted. Nethris blinked her large, dark eyes. I'm sorry? Before the human fleet commits to any action, we need to discuss terms. There was a long pause. Nethris seemed confused. Terms? Commander, there's no time for negotiations. The swarm will be here in less than 3 days. We need to prepare defenses now. Jake kept his voice calm and cold. You have 72 hours before our offer expires. That gives you time. Offer? Nethris's confusion turned to concern. What are you talking about? Your government agreed to help us. That's why you're here. Our government agreed to send a fleet. Lisa corrected. Whether we actually fight depends on whether the Zalthari Empire meets our demands. Nethris stared at them. Demands? What demands? Jake pulled up a document and transmitted it to the Zalthari Defense Command. These are humanity's terms. Read them. Carefully. On her screen, Nethris read the list. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock to outrage. This is insane. You want us to put High Curator Velmoth on trial? You want public apologies? You want access to our military databases? This is extortion. This is justice, Jake said flatly. 15 years ago, the Zalthari Empire destroyed a human mining station and killed 3,000 civilians. You called it a lesson. We call it murder. Before we risk human lives defending your empire, you will answer for that crime. That was a legitimate enforcement action, Nethris protested. Your colony was in restricted space. You were warned. You refused to comply. Those people were miners, not soldiers, Lisa said. There were children on that station. You didn't give them time to evacuate. You just fired. Nethris looked uncomfortable. I wasn't involved in that decision. I don't have authority to agree to these demands. I need to contact the Galactic Council. You have 72 hours. Jake repeated. After that, the human fleet withdraws. You can face the Krell. Alone. You would let billions die because of pride? Nethris demanded. This isn't about justice. This is revenge. Jake leaned forward. You're right. It is revenge. For 15 years, the Zalthari treated humanity like we were nothing. You laughed at us. You stole our territory. You killed our people. And you expected us to just accept it because we were primitives from a death world. He paused, letting the words sink in. Now, you're the ones who need help. You're the ones who are desperate. And you're learning what it feels like when the species you humiliated decides they've had enough. The Krell will spread beyond our empire, Nethris said desperately. They'll reach human space eventually. You're not just abandoning us. You're endangering yourselves. Maybe, Jake agreed. But we'll face that problem on our terms, in our space, with our fleet. We survived on Earth for millions of years fighting predators and parasites. We'll survive the Krell too, if it comes to that. Nethris was silent for a long moment. "You're serious. You'll actually let us die?" "We're serious," Lisa confirmed. "Earth sent this fleet to deliver a message, not to be your saviors. The message is simple. You don't get to treat humanity like inferiors, and then expect us to come running when you need help." "I need to speak with the Council," Nethris said weakly. "You have 72 hours, Jake said again. "We'll wait here, but we won't wait long." The transmission ended. The bridge was quiet. "That was harsh," Chris said from the tactical station. "It needed to be," Jake replied. "The Zalthari need to understand that humanity isn't asking for respect anymore. We're demanding it. WWA. WW. WWWW. The hours passed slowly. The human fleet maintained position at the edge of the system. Weapons powered, but not aimed at anything. They waited. On Zalthari Prime, chaos erupted. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. When Nethris presented humanity's demands, the reaction was explosive. "Outrageous," one council member shouted. "How dare a primitive species make demands of us? They're the ones with ships that can save us." Another council member pointed out grimly. "Maybe we should consider their terms." "Never. The Zalthari Empire does not bow to threats. The Zalthari Empire is about to be consumed by the Krell swarm. Pride won't save us." The argument raged for hours. High Curator Velmoth, now stripped of most of his authority due to his role in creating the Krell crisis, watched from the sidelines. He knew what the council would eventually decide. They had no choice. 48 hours passed. The Krell swarm grew closer. Long-range sensors showed the approaching mass of bioships. There were thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. The Zalthari fleet couldn't stop them. Nobody could, except possibly the humans. 60 hours passed. The council was still arguing. Some members wanted to refuse on principle. Others pointed out that principle meant nothing if they were all dead. With 12 hours left before Jake's deadline, the council finally voted. The motion passed by a narrow margin. The Zalthari would meet humanity's demands. All of them. Nethris contacted the Retribution personally. She looked even more exhausted than before. "We accept your terms," she said quietly. "All of them. The Council is preparing a public statement acknowledging the Kepler 442 incident. Reparations will be paid. The territorial restrictions are lifted. High Curator Velmoth will be surrendered to your custody, and our military databases are being prepared for transfer." Jake nodded. "Transmit confirmation when each demand is met." "You're really going to make us go through with all of this before you help?" Nethris asked. "The swarm arrives in less than 60 hours. "Yes," Jake said simply. Over the next 10 hours, the demands were met one by one. The Galactic Council broadcast a formal statement across all channels. In it, they acknowledged that the destruction of Kepler 442 was an excessive use of force. They apologized to the human species for the loss of life. They announced that all restrictions on human expansion were lifted immediately. The reparations were authorized. Every family that lost someone at Kepler 442 would receive compensation. It wasn't much compared to a life, but it was acknowledgement. The military databases began transferring to the human fleet. Terabytes of tactical data, ship designs, and strategic information flowed into human computers. It would take years to analyze all of it, but it represented centuries of Zalthari military knowledge. And finally, High Curator Velmoth was placed in custody. Security forces arrested him in his quarters. He didn't resist. What would be the point? His empire was dying, and he had helped kill it by bringing the Krell to Zalthari space. When all 5 demands had been met, Nethris contacted Jake again. "It's done. Everything you asked for. Will you help us now?" Jake looked at Lisa, then at Chris, then at the rest of his bridge crew. He thought about his sister. He thought about 3,000 dead. He thought about 15 years of humiliation. "Yes," he said finally. "We'll help." But not because you deserve it. We're helping because letting the Krell take Zalthari Prime creates a bigger threat to human space. This isn't mercy, Sub-Curator. This is strategic necessity. Jake Morrison stood before the main communications array on the Retribution. The entire bridge crew watched him. Lisa Hayes had suggested this broadcast, and after thinking about it, Jake agreed. The galaxy needed to hear this. The Zalthari needed to hear this. And most importantly, humanity needed to say it. Open a channel, Jake ordered. Maximum broadcast. I want this transmitted on every frequency the Zalthari use. And I want it forwarded to every species in the Galactic Council. The communications officer looked nervous. Sir, that's going to be heard by billions of people across dozens of star systems. Good, Jake said. That's the point. The channel opened. Jake took a breath and began to speak. My name is Commodore Jake Morrison of the human warship Retribution. I'm speaking to the Zalthari Empire, to the Galactic Council, and to every species that's been watching humanity for the past 15 years. You all need to hear what I have to say. He paused, gathering his thoughts. This wasn't a speech he had written down. These were words he had been carrying for 15 years. Humanity didn't ask to meet the galaxy. We were exploring our own corner of space when the Zalthari found us. We were excited. We thought first contact would be the beginning of something wonderful. We imagined sharing knowledge, culture, and friendship with species from across the stars. Jake's voice grew harder. Instead, we were told we weren't good enough. We were primitives. Violent apes from a death world. We weren't civilized enough to join the galactic community. The Zalthari Empire placed restrictions on our expansion. They claimed star systems we had surveyed. They treated us like children who needed to be controlled. On Zalthari Prime, billions watched the broadcast. In the council chambers, the assembled representatives of dozens of species watched too. Nobody spoke. They all wanted to hear what the human commander would say next. We tried to reason with you, Jake continued. We sent diplomats. We offered trade. We showed you our art and literature. We tried to prove that humanity deserved a place among you. And you laughed at us. He let that sink in. When we refused to abandon our colonies, you destroyed the mining station at Kepler 442. 3,000 people died in minutes. My sister was there. Her name was Kelly Morrison. She was 32 years old. She had 2 children, ages 6 and 8. They died too. Their names were Alex and Sophie. Jake's voice remained steady, but everyone who knew him could hear the emotion underneath. The Zalthari didn't give them time to evacuate. They didn't offer surrender. They just fired. And then High Curator Velmoth went on every human channel and told us this was a lesson. That this was what happened when primitives forgot their place. On the bridge, Lisa Hayes closed her eyes. She had lost friends at Kepler 4422. Everyone in the human fleet had lost someone. Earth had a choice, Jake said. We could fight back and probably lose. The Zalthari fleet was bigger and more advanced. Or we could accept the humiliation and pay the tribute. We chose survival. For 15 years, we bowed our heads. We paid what you demanded. We stayed within the borders you set. And the galaxy forgot about us. He stepped closer to the camera. But here's what the Zalthari didn't understand about humans. Here's what the whole galaxy missed. Humanity evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Earth is a Class 12 death world. Do you know what that means? Jake began to explain, his voice growing stronger. It means our planet has extreme weather. Hurricanes that can level cities. Tornadoes that pick up houses and throw them like toys. Earthquakes that split the ground open. Volcanoes that darken the sky for years. Our ancestors survived all of that. Earth has diseases that killed millions. Plagues that wiped out entire populations. Viruses and bacteria that evolved specifically to attack human bodies. And, We learned to fight them. We learned medicine and vaccination and surgery. We learned to survive what would kill most species. Earth has predators, Jake continued. Animals that saw humans as food. Bears that weighed half a ton. Big cats that hunted in the dark. Snakes with venom that stopped your heart. And humans learned to hunt them back. We became the apex predator of a world full of apex predators. He paused again. The Zalthari called us violent. They said we were aggressive and dangerous. They were right, but they didn't understand why. Humans aren't violent because we're primitive. We're violent because violence was the price of survival on Earth. Every human alive is descended from ancestors who fought their way to the top of Earth's food chain. On Zalthari Prime, Nethris watched the broadcast with growing unease. She had read the reports about Earth. She knew it was classified as a death world, but she had never really understood what that meant until now. So when the Zalthari killed 3,000 of our people, we didn't forget, Jake said. We remembered, and we planned. For 15 years, humanity built a fleet, not ships for exploration or trade, not vessels for ceremonial battles or policing actions. We built ships for total war. The camera pulled back to show the bridge of the Retribution. The tactical displays showed the human fleet positioned around Zalthari Prime. The ships looked brutal and ugly compared to the elegant Zalthari vessels. The ships you're looking at were designed by a species that understands war, Jake explained. Real war. Not the games you play in this galaxy. We studied your battles. We learned your tactics. And we realized that none of you actually know how to fight when survival is on the line. He gestured to the tactical display. Your ships are beautiful. They're works of art. But they're fragile. Your tactics minimize casualties and avoid collateral damage. Your wars end when one side surrenders, and the winner is generous. That's not war. That's a debate with weapons. Jake's expression grew cold. Human war is different. When Earth fights, we fight to win. We accept casualties. We use overwhelming force. We destroy the enemy's ability to fight back. And we don't stop until the threat is eliminated. On Earth, President Helen Grant watched the broadcast from her office. She had approved Jake's plan to make this speech, but hearing it still sent chills down her spine. He was telling the entire galaxy that humanity was dangerous. That humans were everything the Zalthari had feared. The Zalthari Empire asked for our help against the Krell swarm, Jake continued. They're desperate. Their fleets are broken. Their worlds are dying. And they turned to the primitives they humiliated, hoping we would save them. He leaned forward. We're here. We answered your call. But not because you deserve it. We came because letting the Krell consume your empire would create a bigger threat later. This isn't mercy. This isn't forgiveness. This is strategic necessity. Before we engaged the Krell, we made demands. We demanded acknowledgement of the massacre. We demanded reparations. We demanded territory. We demanded justice. And the Zalthari had no choice but to agree. Jake's voice dropped lower. Let me be very clear about something. Humanity is done asking for permission to exist among the stars. We're done accepting insults from species that have never had to fight for survival. We're done bowing our heads to empires that think we're inferior. Today, we're going to show you what Deathworlders can do. We're going to face the Krell swarm, and we're going to win. Not because we're lucky, or because we have better technology. We're going to win because humans understand something you've all forgotten. He paused for effect. We understand that sometimes the universe sends monsters. And when the monsters come, you need monsters to fight them. You need species that evolved fighting predators and plagues and natural disasters. You need warriors from a world that tried to kill them every day. The Zalthari called us violent primitives, Jake said. They were right. We are violent. We are aggressive. We are dangerous. And today, we're going to use all of that to save an empire that didn't think we deserved to exist." His expression hardened. "But when this is over, remember this moment. Remember that the primitives from Earth saved you. Remember that you owe your survival to the species you tried to destroy. And remember that humanity has proven we earned our place in the galaxy, not through diplomacy or politeness, but through strength." Jake looked directly into the camera. "To the Galactic Council, to the Zalthari Empire, and to every species watching this broadcast. The age of treating humanity like inferiors is over. We're here. We're not leaving. And we will never forget what you did to us." He nodded to the communications officer. End transmission. The channel closed. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Lisa spoke quietly. "That was quite a speech. It needed to be said," Jake replied. "The galaxy needed to hear it." "They're going to call us arrogant," Chris said from the tactical station. "They're going to say we're proving everything they feared about Deathworlders." "Let them," Jake said. "We tried being humble. We tried being peaceful. It got 3,000 of our people killed. Now, we're trying something different." An alert sounded at the tactical station. Chris checked his displays and looked up with a grim expression. "The Krell swarm just entered sensor range. They'll be here in 6 hours." Jake nodded. "Good. Send the message to all ships. Battle stations. Prepare to engage. Show the galaxy what happens when you push humanity too far." Across the human fleet, crews rushed to their posts. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. Fighter squadrons prepared to launch. The Retribution and her sister ships formed a defensive line between the approaching swarm and Zalthari Prime. Behind them, the Zalthari fleet watched nervously. Through the viewports of the Retribution, Jake Morrison watched as thousands of bioships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They weren't elegant vessels like the Zalthari built. They were twisted masses of bone and flesh, grown from the organic matter of their victims. Each ship pulsed with a sickening rhythm, like a beating heart. "Mother of God," Lisa Hayes whispered beside him. "There are so many." Chris Donovan worked frantically at the tactical station, counting 12,000 individual vessels, ranging from fighter-sized to battleship-sized. Mass readings are off the scale. These things are dense, heavy. "Biological composition?" Jake asked, keeping his voice calm. Despite what he was seeing, mixed organic and mineral structures. They've incorporated metal from the ships they've destroyed. Smart. It makes them harder to damage. Chris looked up. "Sir, the Zalthari fleet is breaking formation. They're retreating to low orbit around the planet." Jake wasn't surprised. The Zalthari had fought the Krell before and lost badly. Their crews were terrified. But fear was useless in battle. Earth had learned that lesson thousands of years ago. "Let them go," Jake said. "We'll handle this. All human ships, maintain formation. Prepare to engage." The human fleet formed a wall between the swarm and Zalthari Prime. 6 battle carriers and 30 escort vessels against 12,000 enemy ships. The odds were terrible. But humans had faced terrible odds before. "Launch all fighters," Jake ordered. From the Retribution and her sister ships, drone fighters began launching. They poured out of the launch bays, in waves. Hundreds of them. Unlike the Zalthari, who used expensive manned fighters, humanity had learned from Earth's military history. Drones were cheaper, faster, and didn't care if they died. Lieutenant Amy Foster's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Reactors at 140% capacity, sir. We're running hot. Can you hold it?" Jake asked. "For now. But this is way beyond safety limits. The Zalthari would never run their reactors like this." "The Zalthari aren't fighting for survival," Jake replied. "Keep pushing it. We need every bit of power we can get." The Krell swarm charged forward. They didn't use tactics or formations. They simply rushed toward the human fleet, like a wave crashing toward shore. It was overwhelming. It was terrifying. But it was also predictable. All ships, concentrate fire on the lead elements, Jake ordered. Don't try to destroy them all at once. We cut them down, piece by piece. The human fleet opened fire. Railguns hurled solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. Plasma cannons spat superheated streams of energy. Missile pods launched guided warheads. The amount of firepower was staggering. It was excessive. It was exactly what humanity was good at. The first wave of Krell ships died in a storm of fire and metal. Their organic hulls couldn't withstand the kinetic impacts. They exploded into clouds of flesh and bone. But more kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 5 more took its place. They're not slowing down, Lisa reported. They don't care about casualties. Neither do we, Jake said grimly. Launch second fighter wave. More drones poured out. The human strategy was becoming clear. Accept losses. Launch replacements. Keep up the pressure. It was brutal and efficient. The Zelthari watched from their retreating ships in shock. This wasn't how warfare worked in the galaxy. This was something else entirely. The Krell reached the first line of human destroyers. Instead of engaging in long-range combat, the bioships tried to close distance and board. It was their standard tactic. Get close, breach the hull, infect the crew. It had worked on every species they had faced. It didn't work on humans. Boarding detected on Destroyer Lincoln, Chris reported. Krell parasites are entering through breach points. Response? Jake asked calmly. They're venting the affected sections to space, killing the parasites before they can spread. Jake nodded. The Lincoln's crew was following protocol. Compartmentalize the infection. Cut it out before it spreads. It was brutal and cost lives. But it worked. The Krell couldn't infect what they couldn't reach. Lincoln is reporting heavy damage but operational, Chris continued. They're requesting permission to conduct ramming attack. Granted, Jake said immediately. The destroyer, Lincoln, her hull torn and bleeding atmosphere, changed course. She accelerated directly toward a cluster of Krell battleships. The crew had already evacuated to the armored core of the ship. The reactor was set to overload. 5 seconds before impact, the crew teleported to a nearby ship. The Lincoln struck the Krell formation at full speed. The reactor detonated. The explosion vaporized 3 Krell battleships and damaged a dozen more. It was a trade. 1 destroyer for a significant chunk of enemy fleet. By human standards, it was an acceptable exchange. By galactic standards, it was insanity. On Zelthari Prime, Nethris watched the battle unfold. They're sacrificing their own ships, she said in disbelief. They're deliberately destroying their vessels to take out enemy targets. They're Deathworlders, her second-in-command replied. The battle raged for hours. The human fleet slowly retreated toward Zelthari Prime, drawing the Krell with them. Every meter of space was paid for in destroyed fighters and damaged ships, but the Krell were paying a higher price. Thousands of bioships were destroyed. The swarm was bleeding numbers. Krell attempting atmospheric entry, Chris announced. They're trying to bypass the fleet and land directly on the planet. Can't let that happen, Jake said. Amy, I need the main guns. They're already charged, sir. But firing them at full power while the reactor is this hot is dangerous. Do it anyway. The Retribution's main railgun fired. The projectile was a solid tungsten rod the size of a bus, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. It struck the lead Krell ship attempting planetary entry. The ship didn't just explode. It ceased to exist. The rod passed through it and struck 3 more ships behind it. Before its energy was spent. That's what I'm talking about, Jake said with satisfaction. The battle continued through the night. Human crews worked in shifts, catching sleep where they could. The Krell never rested. They just kept coming. But their numbers were dwindling. The swarm that had destroyed 4 Zelthari worlds was being ground down by human firepower and human tactics. On the third day of battle, something changed. The Krell started to retreat. It wasn't an organized withdrawal. The swarm simply began breaking apart. Individual ships fled in different directions. The overwhelming pressure that had driven them forward was gone. "They're running," Lisa said, surprise in her voice. "The swarm has a hive mind," Chris explained, studying the sensor data. "We've been killing so many that the collective intelligence is damaged. They're losing coordination." "Launch hunter-killer squadrons," Jake ordered. "Don't let them regroup. Run them down." Human fighters pursued the fleeing Krell across the system. It took another 2 days to eliminate the stragglers. By the time it was over, the Krell swarm that had threatened to consume the entire Zalthari Empire was destroyed. Scattered remnants fled into deep space, no longer a coordinated threat. The human fleet regrouped in orbit around Zalthari Prime. Jake looked at the damage reports. 2 destroyers completely destroyed. 4 more damaged beyond immediate repair. 953 drone fighters lost. The battle carrier, Defiance, had a massive hole in her port side. The Retribution's reactor was dangerously close to critical failure and would need to be shut down for repairs. By human standards, it was a victory. Costly, but successful. By galactic standards, the casualties were horrifying. Nethres contacted the Retribution. Her expression was a mix of gratitude and shock. "Commodore Morrison, on behalf of the Zalthari Empire, I thank you. You saved our world. You saved billions of lives." Jake's response was cold. "We didn't do it for you. We did it because letting the Krell have this system was strategically unacceptable. Still, you fought for us. You lost ships and lives defending our world." "We lost 2 ships and no lives," Jake corrected. "The crews evacuated before the ships were destroyed. That's what escape protocols are for. And 953 drones aren't lives. They're equipment." Nethres seemed confused. "You evacuate crews before losing ships?" "Of course. Ships can be rebuilt. Trained personnel can't be replaced as easily." It was a concept the Zalthari had never considered. In their experience, when a ship was destroyed, the crew usually died with it. But humans had learned to prioritize life over equipment. Another lesson from Earth's violent history. "The Krell are gone," Jake said. "Zalthari Prime is safe. Our contract is fulfilled. We'll be departing in 6 hours, as soon as we complete emergency repairs." "Wait," Nethres said quickly. "Will you stay? Help us rebuild?" The Council would. 3 months after the Battle of Zalthari Prime, Jake Morrison stood in the United Earth Government building in Geneva. The room was filled with diplomats, military officers, and government officials. President Helen Grant sat at the head of the table, reviewing the latest reports from across human space. The galaxy had changed. The battle had been broadcast across every major communication network. Every species in the Galactic Council had watched humanity fight the Krell swarm. They had seen human tactics, human weapons, and human willingness to accept casualties. The response was mixed, but it was never indifferent. "The Galactic Council has formally requested a human delegation," Kate Palmer reported. She was still the senior diplomatic officer, and she looked pleased. "They're offering full membership. No restrictions. No probationary period. They want us at the table. What's the catch?" Admiral Ryan Carter asked skeptically. "No catch. They're genuinely impressed. Scared, maybe, but impressed." Kate pulled up a data file. 16 species have sent formal trade proposals. 8 more want military cooperation agreements. The Valorians are asking if we'll help them with a pirate problem in their territory. Everyone wants to be friends now, Daniel Cross said, with bitter amusement. He was still recovering from injuries sustained during the battle, but he had insisted on attending this meeting. Funny how that works. President Grant looked at Jake. "You were there, Commodore. You dealt with them directly. What's your assessment?" Jake had been promoted after the battle. The rank came with a desk job and endless meetings. He missed the bridge of the retribution. But someone had to help shape Earth's new relationship with the galaxy. "They're afraid," Jake said simply. "For 15 years, they thought they understood humanity. We were primitives. Violent, yes, but weak. Easy to control. Then we showed up with a fleet designed for total war and beat an enemy they couldn't stop." He stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. The Zalthari lost 4 worlds to the Krell. Their fleets couldn't slow the swarm down. We destroyed the entire swarm in 6 days. That's the difference between polite warfare and real warfare. "The question is what we do now," Grant said. "Do we join the Council? Do we accept their trade proposals? Or do we stay isolated?" "We can't stay isolated," Kate argued. "That ship has sailed. The galaxy knows about us. They know what we can do. If we don't engage diplomatically, we'll end up in a war we don't want." "We won the last one," Daniel pointed out. "Against a mindless swarm," Kate countered. "What happens if the entire Galactic Council decides humanity is too dangerous? We can fight one empire. Can we fight 50? The room was quiet. It was a valid point. Humanity had proven they could win battles. But winning wars required more than military strength. "We join the Council," Grant decided. "But on our terms. We don't ask for permission anymore. We don't apologize for being what we are. If they want us at the table, they accept that humanity is a warrior species." She looked around the room. "Admiral Carter, I want the fleet expanded. Triple our current ship production. If the galaxy is going to see us as dangerous, we might as well have the force to back it up." Carter nodded. "Already working on it. The Zalthari military database has been very helpful. We're incorporating their shield technology with our armor designs. Next-generation ships will be even more effective." "Kate, you'll lead the diplomatic delegation to the Council," Grant continued. "But remember, you're negotiating from a position of strength. We saved the Zalthari. We stopped the Krell. The galaxy owes us." "Understood, Madam President." Grant turned to Jake. "Commodore Morrison, I have a special assignment for you." Jake raised an eyebrow. "The Valorians want help with pirates. It's a good opportunity to show that humanity can be more than just destroyers. Send a small task force. Show them we can protect trade routes and maintain order. But make it clear that anyone who attacks human interests will regret it." Jake nodded slowly. "A demonstration of power." "Exactly. We're not trying to conquer the galaxy. But we're not going to be pushed around either. We matabid. We matabid. We matabid. We matabid. We matabid. We matabid. We matabid." The meeting continued for another hour, discussing trade agreements, territorial claims, and military deployments. Earth was expanding rapidly. Colonies were being established in systems the Zalthari had previously restricted. Human ships were exploring regions of space that had been forbidden before. After the meeting ended, Jake found himself walking through the building with Lisa Hayes. She had been promoted too, and was now his second in command in the new rapid response fleet. "Strange how things change," Lisa said. 3 months ago, we were nobodies. Now, the galaxy can't stop talking about us. "They're talking about whether we're heroes or monsters," Jake replied. "I've seen the reports. Some species think we saved the galaxy from the Krell. Others think we're the next threat they need to worry about. What do you think we are?" Jake considered the question. "I think we're what we've always been. Survivors. Earth made us tough. It taught us to fight. Now we're using those skills on a bigger stage." They reached the transport terminal. Lisa turned to face him. "Do you think your sister would be proud of what we did?" "Rowler." Jake was quiet for a moment. Kelly had been dead for 15 years, but he still thought about her every day. Her children would have been adults now, if they had lived. "I think she'd understand," he said finally. Kelly always said that Earth survived because humans refused to give up. We got knocked down and got back up. That's what we did here. The Zalthari knocked us down. We got back up and showed them what it costs to mess with humanity. It wasn't really about revenge, though, was it? Lisa asked. Not entirely. No, Jake admitted. It was about making sure it never happens again. The galaxy treated us like inferiors because they thought they could. Now, they know better. Across the galaxy, the effects of humanity's actions continued to spread. On Zalthari Prime, the government was struggling to maintain order. The public had lost faith in their leaders after learning that humans, the species they had been taught to despise, had saved them. Protests demanded political reform. Some even suggested that the Zalthari should model their military on human designs. High Curator Velmoth sat in a human prison, awaiting trial. He was cooperating with investigators, providing information about Zalthari operations and the Krell research program. In exchange, he hoped for leniency, but he knew he would likely spend the rest of his life in custody. The 3,000 dead at Kepler 442 demanded justice. On Earth, memorials were being built for the victims of the massacre. The reparations from the Zalthari helped, but money couldn't replace lost lives. Still, it was acknowledgement. Recognition that what happened was wrong. In the frontier systems, human colonies expanded rapidly. Ships that had been restricted for 15 years now explored freely. New worlds were surveyed. Resources were claimed. Humanity was making up for lost time. The Galactic Council convened to formally admit humanity as a full member. The ceremony was broadcast across all major networks. Kate Palmer stood before the assembled representatives, looking confident and professional. Behind her, a human honor guard stood at attention. They wore combat armor, a reminder of what humanity could do if threatened. We accept membership in the Galactic Council, Kate said clearly. Humanity is ready to contribute to galactic society. We offer our strength, our knowledge, and our commitment to peace. But we also offer a warning. The chamber was silent. This wasn't the usual diplomatic speech. Humanity will never again accept treatment as inferiors, Kate continued. We will never again bow to species who think they can dictate our place in the stars. We are here as equals, or we are not here at all. Some council members looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in understanding. The Zalthari delegation, led by Sub-Curator Nethris, simply looked resigned. They knew better than anyone what humanity was capable of. We hope to build relationships based on mutual respect, Kate said. We want to trade, to share knowledge, to work together for the benefit of all species. But make no mistake, if threatened, humanity will respond with all the force at our disposal. We are a warrior species. We will not apologize for that. The speech ended. The vote was called. Humanity was formally admitted to the Galactic Council by a wide margin. The age of human isolation was over. Back on Earth, President Grant watched the broadcast from her office. Admiral Carter stood beside her. Do you think it will last? Carter asked. This peace? For now, Grant replied. The galaxy is still processing what happened. They're afraid of us, but they're also intrigued. We're something new, something they don't fully understand. And when they stop being afraid, Grant smiled slightly. Then we remind them why they should be. But hopefully, we won't need to. Hopefully, we can build something better. On the frontier, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the warship Vanguard. His task force was heading to Valorian space to deal with the pirate problem. It was a small operation compared to the Battle of Zalthari Prime, but it was important. Humanity needed to show they could be protectors as well as warriors. As the ship jumped to faster than light speed, Jake thought about the future. Earth had proven it could fight. Now came the harder part. Building a lasting place in the galactic community, making sure that humanity's children would never have to face what his generation had faced. The Zalthari had called humans primitives. They had called them violent apes from a death world. In a way, they were right. Humans were products of a harsh world. They were aggressive, adaptable, and stubborn. But those traits, born from millions of years of survival, were exactly what humanity needed to thrive among the stars. The galaxy had sent humanity a message 15 years ago. You are not worthy. You are not welcome. Know your place. Humanity had sent a message back. We decide our own worth. We take our own place. And if you try to stop us, you will regret it. The message had been received. The galaxy would never forget the Battle of Zalthari Prime. They would never forget the species that fought a war the rest of the galaxy couldn't win. They would never forget the Deathworlders. And somewhere on Earth, in a cemetery overlooking the ocean, a memorial stood for Kelly Morrison and the 3,000 others who died at Kepler 442. Their names were carved in stone. Above the names, a simple inscription. They died in shame. We lived to avenge them. We will remember forever. The age of human dominance had begun. Not through conquest, but through strength. Not through asking, but through taking. And the galaxy would never be the same. In the end, humanity had delivered exactly what the Zalthari asked for. Not mercy, not forgiveness, but judgment. And the judgment was clear. You don't humiliate humanity and walk away unchanged. You don't kill 3,000 people and expect to be saved for free. You don't call a species primitives and then beg them for help without paying a price. The Deathworlders had spoken. The galaxy had listened. And everyone understood the new order. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, written in fire and blood and victory, and they were never giving it up. Be honored to host a human delegation. Jake's smile was thin and cold. No. We came here to deliver judgment, not to make friends. The galaxy watched us get humiliated for 15 years. Today, every species saw what happens when the species you humiliate decides to fight back. He cut the transmission. Around him, the bridge crew began securing systems and preparing for departure. They had won the battle. But more importantly, they had won something else. Respect. Fear. Acknowledgement that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Set course for Earth, Jake ordered. Time to go home. As the human fleet prepared to leave, every ship in the Zalthari fleet watched them go. The elegant silver vessels looked fragile and small, compared to the brutal human warships. The Zalthari crews would never forget what they had witnessed. The Deathworlders had come, fought, and won. And they had done it with a casualness that spoke of long practice. Earth had proven its point. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through asking, but through taking. Dote ships looked like toys compared to the brutal human warships. Nethris stood in the Defense Command Center, watching the humans prepare. They're insane, one of her officers whispered. They're actually going to fight the swarm head-on. They're Deathworlders, Nethris replied quietly. This is what they do. In 6 hours, the battle would begin. The Krell swarm would face an enemy unlike any they had encountered before, and the galaxy would learn that humanity had earned their place among the stars, not through asking, but through fighting. The Deathworlders had spoken. Now they would act. Nethris closed her eyes briefly. I understand. Thank you. Don't thank us yet, Jake said. You're about to see what real war looks like. What happens when Deathworlders go to battle? The galaxy treated us like violent primitives. Today, you'll learn that when the monsters come, the violent primitives are exactly who you need. He turned to his crew. All ships. Battle stations. Prepare to engage the Krell swarm. Show them why you don't mess with Earth. The Retribution and her sister ships moved deeper into the system, toward Zalthari Prime. Behind them, the Krell swarm approached, unaware that for the first time, They were about to face an enemy that understood war on a level the peaceful species of the galaxy had forgotten. Humanity was going to battle, and the galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. Ahead of them, the Zalthari Empire counted down the hours until the Krell arrived. And in between, humanity prepared to deliver a message the galaxy would never forget. He thought about 3,000 dead. He thought about 15 years of humiliation and tribute and borders. "Get me Admiral Carter," he said quietly, "and tell him to prepare the fleet. We're going to answer their call." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "We're going to help them?" Jake smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I didn't say that. I said we're going to answer. There's a difference."